Hey guys, welcome to the FitTown show. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I'm with one of our beautiful members today, Sam Kirby. So Sam's been a member with us for about 2.5 years, and we've been working together for the last 2 months, and the gym's been shut down with some accountability coaching. And I want to talk to Sam about her journey because she has very interesting things that she works on, very different things from other people. And I think it's given her a lot of insights. And it's actually given me a lot of insights as a coach, not just for helping other clients, but actually for my own nutrition and realizing things that I was kind of doing wrong or where I could improve. So it's been a very valuable relationship for both of us, and wanted to share that with you guys because I think it'd be helpful for a lot of people out there. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about, Sam, was when you first started here, I basically felt like you worked out to be able to eat whatever you want. Yes. That could or could not be true. That's what I'm imagining.
Very accurate.
But I feel like that was the case. So can you explain, just like, give us set the stage for that. What was it like when you first started? What was your mindset coming into the gym?
So before CrossFit, I wasn't a member at any other gym. I didn't really lift anything. I just ran. And that exactly was my mindset. It was running to recover from whatever guilt I was feeling from what I ate the day before, or running because I knew that I ate extra food that night before. So, I had to run an extra 2 or 3 miles that day. I just never really felt happy or satisfied with how I looked, but also my mentality. I just wasn't very happy at all with my whole fitness and nutrition plan. I was sort of a bandwagon hopper from nutrition plans. I tried different things. I feel like I had a decent idea of what I was eating, what was healthy, what was not healthy. But again, I had that sort of boxed mindset of these foods are healthy foods, these foods are unhealthy foods. And so the more of those unhealthy foods that I eat, the harder I have to run the next day. And then I saw a random Facebook ad for CrossFit Palm Beach. And I was like, oh, that looks fun. That'll be my next bandwagon that I'll hop on. So I just walked in the doors, met you, I think. You were at the front desk. And so, yeah, that was August of 2017. And so then even when I had started, I was doing the Beach Fit program, and I was doing 2-a-days most of the time. I would do them back to back, or sometimes I would come back in the afternoon, but it was mostly back to back Beach Fit workouts. And it was still a way for me to recover from the discomfort I was feeling based on what I was eating, and the unhappiness that I was having, and the guilt that I was feeling, and all of that. So it was a very unhealthy relationship that I had with food and with myself, and with my body, and working out still felt like the punishment, even though I was enjoying it. So it felt different than just the running. Like doing the Beach Fit workouts felt different than just running straight for 4 or 5 miles a day or something.
It sounds like you enjoyed the workouts more, but you were still essentially using it with the same purpose, which is, do that so I could eat what I wanted, or I ate some stuff and I feel guilty about it, so let me do it as almost like a punishment or to make up for what I did. Yeah,
exactly. And then I started tracking macros maybe 5 or 6 months into Beach Fit. It took me a few months to get through the initial, like excitement of Beach Fit, and then I was like, okay, what's next? Maybe that's that bandwagon mentality again. So then I just started researching tracking macros on my own. I didn't really follow any specific coach. I just was doing a bunch of research and reading. And then I did that, and I loved it, and I saw great results. But it was still, like, looking back on it now, hindsight, I can see how that was still very much the unhealthy control freak mindset, where I was being very restrictive. And I mean, once a week at least, I would still have those awful binging cravings out of control, standing in my pantry, finding any kind of snacks that I can find, peanut butter straight out the jar, just still had those days. Even while I was tracking macros, I would have those cheat days where I just wasn't eating enough probably. And my body was reacting and just not happy with how I was treating it.
Yeah. What was the catalyst to shift that? Was there a moment that you said, I need to switch? When did you realize that something needs to change?
I had a big life event that sort of changed. Maybe I needed a change, and so I just stopped tracking. I released control, and I just didn't track anymore. But I was not in a good place emotionally, so I wasn't eating much of anything for a while. I just didn't have an appetite, and that unhealthy mindset again was, oh, well, you don't have an appetite, so let's just not eat. Let's use this as an excuse to lose some more weight. And yeah, it was not a good idea. Don't do that. And so that was about 14, 15 months ago. That was January of 2019. And it sort of was a battle since then. It was still me just fighting with myself over, you don't have control over what you're eating. Why are you so impulsive with what you eat? Why can you be great some days and then day 3, day 4, you totally lose control again and you fall off? And it was just a constant, cycle of struggling mentally, just could not gain control over what I was eating and how I was feeling. And even then, I mean, relating that to the gym and the workouts, I felt like I was getting stronger. I wasn't using the gym so much as punishment for what I was eating, I don't think. Like I
did
see a shift there.
Yeah.
And I was happy with the results that I was seeing in the gym. So I was getting stronger. I was making, hitting PRs in the gym all the time. And so that part felt fulfilling, I guess.
Yeah. I noticed that you weren't doing as many 2-a-days. I don't know if I just missed those,
right.
But it seemed like that wasn't the case.
Correct. Yeah. Because then, I guess once I switched over to the CrossFit side, backtracking maybe a year, I was doing a CrossFit and then beach fit 2-a-days for a while too. But then I just dropped that off. I remember having a conversation with Steve. I don't exactly know where it fell in the timeline, but Coach Steve, the old coach we used to have, and he said, if you're giving your all in CrossFit, you should not have the energy to be going right into a beach fit class. So stop trying to overload your body and overtax your body and destroy your body basically physically, and do these 2-hour workouts, or just give it your all and give it 100% in the 1-hour CrossFit class. And that is enough.
Yeah.
And so that probably is what initiated that switch for me.
Cool. So let's fast forward to where we've been over the last 2 months. What are you focusing on now?
Mindfulness and presence and control. But the one thing that sticks out to me when I use that word control, it's like I kind of have an aversion to that word, but it's the freedom that I found in the control that I now have. So should I talk about my
we can talk about the actual habits.
Yeah. So I'm tracking, just every day I'm sort of doing an informal intermittent fasting sort of thing that I found works for me in terms of having a structure to my day with nutrition. So I'll eat lunch, like a big meal at lunchtime, snack in the afternoon, big meal at dinner, dessert. So that part is controlled and structured, but I have the freedom to eat whatever I want. And so that was what I was missing from counting macros and, trying to do this intuitive eating garbage that never worked for me either. Where now I have a framework and I can be super flexible, but there's still control and structure there. So I'm not getting to the end of the day and realizing that I've just eaten 3,000 calories and hating myself for it and then punishing myself the next day for it. So intermittent fasting, about an 8-ish hour window of eating, but more about the structure of those meals. And then, so that's I'm tracking that I stop eating by about 7:30 so that I can say that I've hit my window.
Mm-hmm.
I have one dessert every night. Yes, I still get to eat dessert every night, which is huge for me. I have a crazy sweet tooth. I love dessert. I love to bake. And so having the freedom to eat dessert and eat what I want, but I only eat one. So I can't go back for more. And I don't come over with like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I just have, okay, what I sort of ask myself, what do you want for dessert tonight? Sometimes it's something with volume. Other times it's something with flavor, but that's the one thing that I have. And before I start eating it, I'm sort of aware and conscious and mindful of the fact that this will satisfy whatever it is that I'm craving that day or that moment. What's this one? The
portioning.
Right. Pre-portioning everything that I eat, setting it out either in a bowl or just having something not measured, not weighed. Doesn't have to be the serving size of the container, but just not going and grazing into that container. So not putting my hand in a bag of chips and starting to eat, but instead taking however many chips I want to eat that day, putting it into a bowl and then eating that. Just to bring more awareness, to bring more mindfulness and control over what I'm eating and stop the impulsivity. Same with peanut butter. The knife or the spoon goes in one time, and that's all you need. I can lick the spoon.
It could be a big scoop.
It can. That's the thing. And I found that because I'm not weighing it, I'm not measuring it, I don't feel that control to take the biggest possible scoop, like cheat the system. I don't feel the need to do that anymore. I'm probably eating less than a serving of peanut butter when I do eat it, because I know that like it's okay. You're going to get to eat more later. If you're still craving it later, you're going to get to eat it tomorrow if you want it tomorrow. It doesn't have to fit into your macros. It doesn't have to, you don't have to have so much control over how much because peanut butter is my favorite food. I just love it so much. But yeah, I can just have the freedom to have peanut butter with lunch and have peanut butter with my dessert if I want. And it's so freeing. It's crazy. And then my last one is journaling or reading. Some form of self-reflection or just me time to think and process and reflect on how my day was or how I'm feeling, or if there was something specific that went on that day, something that I'm proud of that I managed to accomplish that day. If I don't have the energy to journal, I'll read, or sometimes I'll go outside if it's rest day. I'll go outside and listen to my audiobook and go for a walk or something like that. So just something self-reflective and beneficial for my own mental well-being and mental health. Yeah,
definitely. So the 4 are making sure you actually have a post-dinner dessert every night, cutting off eating by 7:30 every night, portioning every meal or snack that you have, and then some type of nightly journaling or reading.
Yeah.
So I want to go through these a little bit more. I think the post-dinner treat is an interesting one because it's funny, when I talk to a lot of people that started the accountability coaching, a lot of them think I'm going to take away stuff from them. When in our discussion through talking to you, I realized that, it's probably better to make you go out of your way to have something every night. But I think one of the big things that I've noticed is that it made you pick things that you actually really love instead of just picking any random thing.
Yeah.
There's an intention behind your picks.
Absolutely.
Every night. And therefore those things actually become things that you really enjoy and like. Is that...
Yeah. It's the more awareness and more intentionality in what I'm going to choose to eat. And, it's like fulfilling a craving, because I guess I do have extreme cravings sometimes. It's just figuring out what I feel like eating. And like I said, sometimes I want something with volume. So I can do like strawberries and a little bit of vanilla ice cream or something, and something that I feel like I can have more of, and just something kind of sweet, but it's not going to like punch me in the face with sugar. But then sometimes I'm just craving sugar so badly that I want something that I don't care if it's big or small, but I want something
like really rich.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And last night I wanted cake, so I just threw together a mug cake really quick, and I was like, this is great.
I thought you were going to say you baked like an entire cake.
No, I didn't have the energy to bake a cake. I was like, what do I want for dessert? And yeah, I went with, it's so freeing that I can just, you want a mug cake? Fine, make yourself cake.
Yeah. And then the second one of cutting you off, there's actually another thing with that, which is you have to brush your teeth by 7:30 every night. And that was something that I think you communicated to me first, that once I brush my teeth, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, let's set a deadline for when you have to brush your teeth.
Right.
And that has been pretty good.
That's been, that's huge. And that's always something that I've noticed is after I brush my teeth, I can have the self-control of a champion. Like I will not eat. I will not consume anything else that, even 0 calorie, like Zevia's, Propel, anything. I won't, anything with flavor, I'm not interested in after I brush my teeth. So you and I were sitting across this table and you were asking about what my nightly routine looks like. And then you came up with, okay, so why don't we do brushing your teeth by 7:30 as one of your habits? And I was like, that's fantastic. That's such a good idea. So I know it helps solidify the boundary, and it just makes that you should stop eating by 7:30. It makes it more concrete. And I do think that measuring a time to brush your teeth is it sounds less controlling in my mind. It's like I'm playing mind games with myself, but it sounds less controlling in my mind than like, you have to stop eating by 7:30. It's like, no, like just brush your teeth at 7:30, go upstairs, brush your teeth, come back down, hang out with everybody again. Yeah.
The thing that I've really enjoyed about seeing you grow and develop is that at first you were very strict about that, and you still hit it most of the time, but there's a lot of nights now where you don't brush your teeth by 7:30, but you still execute on the intention of why that's there in the first place. And you're good about writing notes about that, of saying, I was out with friends and we ate a little bit late, or we didn't eat a little bit late, but we cut off and I didn't have access to my toothbrush. I didn't want to be that weirdo, but I was still very mindful about cutting myself off at this time.
Yeah, it has, exactly right. It just brought about a more awareness and like a more mindful approach to when I was eating and when I was just grazing. And, if we have a barbecue that night, or any kind of Taco Tuesday where we have all the platters of food laying out, it's so easy to just keep going back every time you go into the kitchen to get water, you go into the kitchen to, do whatever. You go to the bathroom and you walk past the table and there's chips there. You're like, oh, let me just grab another one. It's so easy to do that. And it's so mindless, and, you're just not aware that you're even doing it and going to do it. And that was what was making me feel the guilt and the, and being annoyed with myself by the end of the night. Cause I was like, why did you have to go eat those extra 15, 20 chips when you didn't even realize that you were eating them? You weren't enjoying them. It wasn't necessary. So now it's just brought awareness to what I'm doing, and I just don't eat it.
Yeah.
It's just brought so much more conscious awareness to what I'm eating that I don't even need it. I never needed it before. It just was there. So I was just picking at it.
Can you tell us your living situation? Because I think a lot of people would look at you as like, okay, well, she doesn't have kids. She's probably living alone. She control all these variables, right? And I think you have probably one of the hardest living situations of the people that you're around, as well as the fact that I think for your mentality of not being able to go to an office during these last 2 months could have been the complete worst situation for you.
That's like a whole nother area.
Not being able to stay active and all that. And you've done your best in what I would say is probably one of the harder situations for you.
Yeah. I was terrified to have to start working from home for that reason of working next to my kitchen, where I can just walk in and get a snack at any time that I want. Work was another way that I controlled how much I ate. Whatever I took to work with me was what I was going to eat that day. And if I didn't have candy and chocolate and all the things that I keep in my pantry, then I couldn't eat it. But yeah, back to my living situation. I live in a house with 2 roommates who are about the same age as me. We're all single, just fun, like young adults. And we kind of have this, we call it a frat house. So there are 3 of us living there, but then we also have 3 or 4 friends who come and go pretty much daily. And then we also have neighbors who have, ironically, the same living situation that we do. So then they're in and out of the house all the time as well. So we do a lot of family style dinners. We do a lot of Taco Tuesdays, a lot of grilling, and we do family style takeout stuff at least 2 or 3 times a week. On top of that, my one roommate in particular buys a lot of snacks, a lot of garbage cookies and crackers and cereals and candy. And we kind of have like an open container policy in the house where we're allowed to help ourselves to the food that each other has, as long as we tell each other if we finish it and we replenish it. And that's all fantastic and great, but I don't have control over what they're bringing into the house. And so while I can control what I'm buying, I can't control what they're buying. And so when he comes home with brownies and cookies and he tells me, well, they were buy one, get one free out of Publix, so I had to buy them. Like, but did you really have to buy them? Because now I have to control myself and not eat them, and I can't do that.
Couldn't do that.
Correct. I can now. Yeah. This was right. So this was pre-accountability coaching, but yeah. He brings home a lot of junk.
Yeah. So I wanted to highlight some things on the brushing your teeth thing, because I think a lot of people ask like, okay, well, is it bad to eat late at night? Mm-hmm. And I think if you're working out late at night, it's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Or if you just have a later schedule, that's fine. I think the reason it works well for you, or the reason we wanted this habit, was number one, you're up super early every day. I mean, mm-hmm. even without you being in your normal work schedule, you're still getting a 5 or 6 a.m. workout right. most days. So by the time we get that late in the day, it really is time for you to be like done eating, even with the intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I mean, on top of that, it's just having that firm cutoff where you actually backwards, when we step back to your original conversation, we looked at when is your worst times, mm-hmm. essentially, and it was right. late at night. Right, so it was, how can we put some semblance of control in your sort of worst time mm-hmm. of day? So that's why it works really well for you, although I wouldn't necessarily give that to everybody, or right. at least maybe not that time. Yeah,
for sure. And you and I have spoken about maybe I need to start eating earlier in the day, because I do get those really early morning workouts. And then there's a window of 5-6 hours sometimes mm-hmm. where I'm not eating anything after I work out, and I don't start eating until lunch. And I have actually started incorporating protein shake if I feel extra hungry in the morning. Mm-hmm. I will, after I work out, have something somewhat small. But yeah, the nighttime cravings and the nighttime self-control was just, it was so difficult for me to get out of the pantry, get out of the kitchen, stop eating 14 desserts, and just the one dessert and be done. I just, for whatever reason, I can wait a whole 5 or 6 hours and not eat. But then once I start eating, I do have a difficult time stopping. And so by the time nighttime came around, especially if I had made what I had deemed for myself and my own crazy rules to be like a bad choice on what I ate at lunch or mm-hmm. in the morning or something, if I felt like I had eaten a lot, instead of, my mindset is now, well then, you can cut out the rice at dinner, or you can eat a smaller dessert to balance it out. Before it was, well, you already screwed up the whole day, you mm-hmm. idiot. So why don't you just eat whatever you want and start again tomorrow? And, enjoy all those things that you haven't eaten in the past 2 or 3 days and go crazy because this is a cheat day, and then start again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not doing any of that anymore.
Yeah. So that's the thing that's had the biggest impact on me, actually, personally, is that you've allowed yourself to celebrate any win for the day, regardless of how bad the day was prior to that. Mm-hmm. So you could have made 1, 2, or 3 bad decisions prior to that in the day. But if the 3rd or 4th decision was then a good one to avoid something, you would allow yourself to celebrate that. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I started working with Danielle, and I had been working with Danielle, but I said, I want to now message you about this in my own mindfulness. And now I message her every night about the things that I'm doing. And I found that so empowering to, it didn't matter if you made 1, 2, or 3 bad decisions. It was, what's the decision you're making now? And mm-hmm. if it was a good one, you could celebrate that. Mm-hmm. and report on that
Yeah.
of saying like, it was still a good day because of this. Like
Mhm.
there was still a decent day because of that. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I like finding silver linings and stuff. And it makes me feel better. So, yeah.
So let's talk about the portioning meals and snacks. You touched on it pretty good, but like I think it's building up this muscle, right, of willpower,
Mhm.
right? I think of willpower like a muscle. So people will sometimes describe willpower as like a finite resource, which I would say, yes, it is in a matter of a current period. But I think over days and weeks, you can build that
Mhm.
finite resource into a bigger resource that you can tap into. So it's kind of like a muscle. Like when you haven't been working out, you go in and do 5 push-ups. 5 push-ups is really hard. As you train push-ups more often, then you can do 25 push-ups. Mm-hmm. It's still a finite resource. They're not going to, you can't do 1,000 push-ups, but you gain the ability to do more over time.
Absolutely.
Is that how you feel about this separation of it? Do you feel like that muscle is just slowly getting a little bit stronger by having that separation?
For sure. Yeah. At first it was, I wasn't always catching myself, and that's what I would write to you, and I would say, well, I had my hand in the chip bag or in the pretzel bag, and then I realized, oh shoot, I'm not supposed to be doing this. So it was building the awareness of being self-aware of what I was doing and what I was eating, and it took tracking that habit every day for, I would say, over a month before I felt like I solidly had like a handle on not just reaching my hand into bags for anything. Now I sort of have a slightly different, like a different view of the way that I snack, and it's just much more intentional because I had to work on, I remember the one time there was a bowl of strawberries in front of me, and I ate 2 strawberries. I was like, oh shoot, I wasn't even realizing that I was eating them, and I hadn't put them on my plate before I started eating them. But that was not a big deal. And so that was more of a celebration to me of, you realize that you were doing it, and so let's celebrate the fact that you're building that willpower muscle. You're becoming more self-aware of what you're eating and what you're doing around food. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it started to turn into like, even though I was not in a situation where I could pre-portion this thing, I still ate as if I would pre-portion it. So since you first created the habit, you've now found ways to be flexible around your habits while still upholding the intention of your habits. Although you're still not like, that's not to say that you don't hit your habits. Just there's often, 1, 2, 3 times a week where you're saying, you know what, I'm going to count this as successful because the intention was there, even though I didn't exactly brush my teeth by 7:30. Right. I didn't exactly pre-portion it the way that we had originally said it, but I ate the way I would have had I did pre-portion.
Yeah, I was, we were just out on the boat on Saturday, and there was a platter of chips and, just like snack foods and things, and someone had brought a big bowl of fruit salad, and there wasn't bowls and plates and stuff for me to pre-portion. So it was a matter of going in and just grabbing. And so instead of snacking and then, going away to hang out with somebody for a while and then coming back and grabbing more, it was, okay, now's your time. Like, eat some strawberries and watermelon, whatever you want, and then you're going to let it go after that. And so I wasn't pre-portioning it necessarily. And I didn't even put a number. Sometimes I'll put a number on how many like tortilla chips I'm going to eat or something, coming from the macro counters, mindset of, I know what the portion size looks like. I don't even have to look at the nutrition facts anymore. So I know roughly how many calories I'm going to consume if I eat 12, 13 tortilla chips. But it was just fruit, and I was willing to just let myself eat, however many you want while you're standing in this area, and then you're done. You don't need to go back for more. And I wasn't really hungry yet. It was just like more social eating, but I allowed myself to eat what I felt like I wanted, and then I was done. And that technically, if this was 2 months ago when we had first started accountability coaching, that would have been a miss for me. Like, I would not have counted that. But now that I had the awareness before I started eating, I had the awareness of staying in control and staying mindful, I would count that as a win today, or, over the weekend or whatever. I counted that as a win.
Cool. So then how does journaling feed into this? Do you see it as the journaling, the reading as related, or is it just like a separate habit that just happens to be part of something what we're tracking?
Yeah, first it was very much related to getting these habits under control. I mean, I had journaled, and I've told you this, but I had journaled the whole year-ish before.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was mainly related to nutrition and my mentality and mindset. And there was a lot of negativity that I was writing about, but it was just that whole, why can't you gain control of what you're eating? Why are you so impulsive with eating? Hey, you did great today. Hey, you did great today. Oh my gosh, what a terrible day. You ate half the jar of peanut butter.
Only half?
Only half. I stopped at half. So I felt like I'd been trying to gain control over this whole past year. It was me trying to gain control over what I was eating. And then accountability came in and crushed it in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Helped me achieve the whole thing that I've been trying to achieve for like a year by myself.
So,
but the journaling, I guess getting back to that, the journaling was at first me being more self-aware, being self-reflective on how I did that day, a bit about like weight and where my weight was at, because I was concerned about that in the beginning of the accountability.
Did you see the way that you journal evolved? Meaning, like, do you think that you were potentially journaling in an unhealthy way at one point where you were sort of dwelling, or I don't know how it would show up, but then do you think that your journaling evolved to be more healthy in the way you were journaling?
Yeah, probably. To an extent, yeah, and I'm not so consumed and focused on my nutrition anymore. Like, it's not as heavy of a weight. Like, the things that I'm writing, it's not all about how I'm feeling mentally about the things that I ate and how I'm feeling physically. And I was also journaling about my physical health, because I've had some like health issues related to like gluten and dairy allergies and things like that. So it was also a lot about that and trying to figure out what was making me feel sick. So that was part of it as well. But now that that's also getting better and getting under control, it's less, my journal is less consumed by emotions, like negative emotions around food, and more about celebrating the wins of the day and something that I'm proud of, or just, yeah, how I enjoyed my day unrelated to food for once. Because I think I've had such an unhealthy relationship with food for so long that it totally consumed my mind and what I was thinking and what I was doing for so long. And now it's finally, it is shifting into more of just positive, more of a broader mindset thing, and a mindfulness journaling, as opposed to just a mindfulness around nutrition.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I don't know if you want to speak on this, but I've seen the carryover to other parts of your life, mm-hmm. like mainly like your relationships, mm-hmm. not just like, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, but like friendships, yeah. How you choose to spend your time.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like journaling is the connection for that?
Yes. Journaling and reading. I've always liked the idea of reading, but never been a huge reader. But what I do like to read is like the self-help, the self-growth, growth mindset sort of things. And yeah, when this whole aspect of being in control of my nutrition, when I finally felt like this was working, and I was more aware of like the shorter times when I was eating and more self-aware and more mindful, it's now started to grow into being more mindful of how I'm spending my time, and how my actions and my behaviors and what I'm doing with that time is making me feel. Is it fulfilling? Is it changing my mood? I sort of feel a lot of peer pressure to, not peer pressure, but pressure to like be social and be a host. I love hosting people at the house, but sometimes I am more introverted than a lot of my friends, so I still need that time to self-reflect and just have that time to myself, whether it's listening to an audiobook, going for a walk, riding the bike, or riding my rollerblades or something. And I am starting to put the connection together between how I'm spending my time and how it's making me feel. And so, yeah, I'm sort of starting to saying no to things. It seems kind of extreme, but that's sort of what's happening is I'm more conscious of what I'm signing myself up for and what I'm agreeing to and thinking, are you going to actually enjoy yourself when you're there? Are you just going because you feel like you should go? Are you just going to this event, going to Papi Chulo's because everyone else is going, or do you actually want to go? And also related to food, I mean, that would give me a lot of anxiety back in the day, knowing I was going to my favorite Mexican restaurant with my favorite tortilla chips and my favorite margaritas, and I have no control when I get around those tortilla chips, and I might have 2 or 3 margaritas because I'm finally letting myself go and, releasing control and having that cheat time to drink margaritas. So I would feel all this anxiety and build up, and I just have become more aware of the fact that you don't have to go to that. If it's going to cause you more harm than good, if it's going to make you feel worse, then just like, if you can't just go and just enjoy it, then don't go. You don't have to go. If it's going to be better for you, mentally, if you're going to be happier at the end of the day not going, then go do something else that you enjoy and enjoy more, and then you're going to feel better. And that's also come through in my journaling and self-reflection and journaling my emotions and like how my behaviors are affecting my mood.
Yeah. And what you're not saying there is, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to eat really poorly, so I'm going to not go for that reason only. It was a combination of that plus I'm not that excited to go in the first place.
Yeah.
Because there's been plenty of times since we've been working together where you have chosen to go to a place like Papi Chulo's. You have enjoyed yourself, but you haven't gone overboard with that stuff.
I've gone and not eaten any of the chips that I usually couldn't have any control over, or gone and said, all right, take this, put it on your plate once your tacos get here, and then that's what you're eating. And I'll stop. And now I'm actually going to be more inclined to go, probably because I have less anxiety over all of the guilt and things that I'm going to feel afterwards at the end. But it's just like a self-awareness and a self-presence and just being aware of what I'm doing and how it's making me feel throughout my whole day, and not just around nutrition and food anymore. Yeah.
One of the things that I think is really important is the ability to be coachable. And I think your best asset as a client in this thing is your honesty. And it's not only made it easier for me to help you, but it's also just made it much more enjoyable for me. You write me paragraphs every day, and you ask if that's too much, and I honestly look forward to reading your stuff more than anybody. It's awesome, and it doesn't take me that long to read, and I'm able to give you really detailed feedback. So is that something you have to work on, to be honest? Like, do you feel like you don't want to say those things, or how do you view that?
I'm not a very open person, and I'm not very, I'm not good at showing my vulnerabilities. So I don't know why I've just felt comfortable just letting you know exactly where my mind is at. I think when I came in for our first sit down conversation before we set the habits, I felt like you really understood what I was saying, and you weren't judging me for having these habits that were really unhealthy, and my mindset that, I can lift and smile and come in at 5 o'clock in the morning, be all cheery and happy. But I felt like I could let you know, hey, I'm still struggling with this. Hey, every single night I'm feeling guilty about what I'm eating, or, and you just sort of were there to listen and guide me to sort of come up with the goals together. But I felt understood, and it's been pretty easy for me to open up about where I'm at. I will say I've talked to some other people, like a couple of my other friends at the gym are doing the accountability, and a few are not. They turned it down. And I've sort of reflected on that a little bit and why it worked so well for me and why it's not really working for some other people. And I think having the past 9 months of me struggling and feeling like I'm trying to do it myself, and, having the motivation to want to make the changes, and, being self-motivated to improve has a lot to do with it. Like, I'm pretty determined. I love and get so excited about self-improvement and self-growth and that kind of thing. And I want to get better. And so I think that's why it has worked so well for me. That's not to say that there are people that not everyone wants to change. I mean, but I was just willing to look at my flaws and ask for the help. And you seem to understand exactly where I was coming from. And so it was pretty easy.
Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of the same things.
Yeah, you were like, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because we talk a lot about like food quality and food quantity. Mm-hmm. And I think both of us were coming from a place where we were pretty good at both of those things when we were good at them.
Right.
And then when we were bad at them, we were bad at them.
Mm-hmm.
But like we knew exactly what we needed to do and we followed through most of the time.
Yeah.
And we had good food quality. We had good food quantities. But there's a missing piece, which is really the how. How are you eating? How are you approaching
mm-hmm.
food? That we both worked a lot on and are still a huge work in progress.
Yeah.
But we both feel like we're moving in the right direction
sure.
with it. And I just think it's so interesting. I mean, precision nutrition, which is one of the biggest certifications out there that we both I've gone through, you're going through now,
right.
I've gone through in the past. They actually have even their highest level clients, their first 2 weeks, they work on eating more slowly and eat until you're 80% full.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what you eat. It doesn't matter what things you eat as long as you can follow those guidelines.
Right.
And it's still so hard to do. That's not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But most people would overlook that. And people like us, I think for a while, looked at, well, what foods can I eat and just not have to worry about that thing? Like, I don't want to have to be more mindful. I just want to stuff my face
yeah.
with something that's really healthy,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, volume.
Are you on board with that?
Yes, for sure. Just coming from tracking macros for however long it was what can I eat that will fit in this giant bowl and make my eyes think that I'm eating a lot, and that'll satisfy me. But at the end of the day, that's probably what was causing the cravings. But it's just, yeah, it's like a mind game. And it was, before all of this accountability, it was, what can I do to trick myself into thinking that I'm like satisfying myself, or, you know, finding little tips, little ways to tweak big things so that I was sneaking more protein in there, and just all of these little things when it should be more simple, but it's just not. It's so difficult to eat until you're 80% full, because it takes so much awareness and so much mindfulness to like stop and eat more slowly and not just enjoy the giant plate of fries and not finish the entire thing. But yeah, it's definitely work in progress, but I think that's pretty exciting that there's still places to grow and places to go. Yeah.
So I wanted to highlight how you have transformed, because I think people always want to see the tangible results, and right. You did an in-body test. You're down 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
4 of those pounds were body fat, because you actually gained 2 pounds of muscle,
right.
which was 3% body fat in 2 months. You know, and again, this is a period of time that you thought was going to be really tough for you because of not having the limitations of work, the structure
mm-hmm.
of work, being out of your house more
mm-hmm.
often, more time with, you know, roommates and friends and things like that. And you've done so well. What do you think is any tips you have to share for someone, whether there's someone that is where you were before, where they're like, just, they have this mindset of like, I work out for punishment, or work out to, maybe not punishment, but to burn the stuff I've eaten, or they're maybe where we were, where it's like, okay, where we were like a month or 2 ago, where it was like, okay, I know I need to be doing better, but I just don't know how to get over the hump. What do you think is some of the better things they can focus on?
For me, it was all about mindfulness and awareness, and finding something that works for you, and not feeling like you have to pick a extreme diet plan, or you know, following keto or even macros or anything like that, but finding what your body needs and just being more aware of what you're doing, what you're eating, finding a way to, I mean, habit tracking is so simple. It takes 5 minutes at the end of the day. It doesn't take a lot of time. I'm not on my fitness pal all day long tracking macros. I'm not weighing the things that I'm eating. It's just, I found what works for me. And yeah, I have just a lot more awareness of what I'm doing all day, every day, where I'm spending my time. It's just been so valuable and just taught me so much about, you know, how to live and be happy and find things that make you content with who you are, and happy, you know, at the end of the day, and not feeling all of those terrible emotions, and like releasing control over having food control all of my emotions by the end of the day. And it's all just because I found that structure in what I eat and how I eat, and yeah, it works for me. Find what works for you.
Cool. Well, thanks for being so open with us and taking the time, Sam.